Good morning students. Welcome back to online classes of your analog communication. In last class we have started your third unit, that is your analog pulse modulation schemes. Right? I hope you remember what we have discussed in last class. We have seen about your analog pulse modulation schemes. Then we have seen the sampling technique, which is very important for your conversion of your continuous waveform into the discrete waveform. Right? We have seen the sampling theorem also, and we have seen the equations for that one and the techniques that are used for your sampling. What are the different kinds of techniques we are using over there? They are nothing but your ideal sampling, flat top sampling, and the natural sampling. Yes, so in today's class we are going to discuss one of the modulation technique which is used for your pulse modulations. Okay, I have given a tree over here so that you'll get a clear explanation about your pulse modulation schemes. Okay, in last class, as I have said, I'll be giving the link of the first class where we have seen the tree of your modulation schemes, where you had continuous wave modulation and pulse modulation. In pulse modulation you are having again analog pulse modulation and digital pulse modulation. These digital communication or digital pulse modulation techniques that we are going to see in the next semester in digital communication. For our syllabus in this semester we are going to see only about analog. We are seeing a complete analog communications, so we will be seeing the modulation techniques which are used for analog modulation, both for continuous wave modulation as well as the pulse modulation. So in analog pulse modulation we are having three techniques, that are your pulse amplitude modulation, pulse width modulation and pulse position modulation. In digital pulse modulation, we will be seeing the pulse code modulation and delta modulation, adaptive delta modulation, that are completely different, that we are going to see in digital communications. Right? So we are having these three different modulation techniques that are used for your pulse modulation. So out of that one, in the very first one is your pulse amplitude modulation, that we are going to see in your today's class. Okay, so before going to amplitude modulation or the pulse amplitude modulation, we'll just see what is the important advantages that are in your pulse modulation schemes. Why we are going to pulse modulation? Instead, we already had continuous waves, right? Instead of that one we are using the sampling, which is used to convert your continuous wave into discrete time wave, correct? So what is the advantage? So before going to pulse amplitude modulation, we quickly see what are the two advantages or some of the advantages of your pulse modulation schemes. So very first advantage is that the transmitted power is no longer continuous as in your continuous wave modulation, but it is pulsed in nature. What does it mean? So what is the different thing? The advantage is here, you are having the continuous wave. You just think in your think that you are having continuous sinusoidal wave, you are having continuous pulses, carriers also you are having continuous pulses. So what is happening there? You are having the continuous power has to be transmitted, but whereas in your pulse modulation, for a positive pulse where the information is present, only at that particular point the power is used, means your power is transmitted. Other than that one, the power is not used. So that is the main advantage, that your power is reduced over here in your pulse modulation schemes. Right? Then the second one is vacant time between pulse occurrence filled by interleaving or multiplexing pulses waveforms of some other messages. And the mainly used multiplexing techniques here is your time division multiplexing. Okay, we use time division multiplexing mostly in your pulse modulation. And see what you are saying, in continuous wave modulation you are having continuous waveforms, but here in the pulse modulation a pulse will be there where information is there, after that you won't get any pulse. At that vacant time, at that empty time, what it does, it occurs a field, it multiplexes one more message signal or the one more pulse waveform where the information is stored. So it does not waste any kind of time. Whenever you are having a free time, means vacant, when you are having, suppose if I am having a pulse of 1s and 0s, 1 0 1 1, Okay, one if you consider, then you are having a upper peak of pulse, positive pulse, yes it or not. So after you are having this upper peak of pulse, then you will be going for zero, means there is no power transmitter, you are having a free time over there. At that zero free time, this pulse occurrences can be filled, that can be filled by multiplexing a pulse waveform of some other message signal which can be used for your transmission. So this is the second advantage of your pulse modulation schemes. One is power is reduced, and what is the vacant time? It completely doesn't waste any time. It completely use the time. So these are the two advantages that you are having in the pulse modulation schemes. Okay, now before going to pulse amplitude modulation, once again we'll revise about your sampling theorem. And one of the last topic I have forgot to say, the figure I have given, that is about your aliasing effect or the aliasing effect. Okay, so what is the sampling theorem? What it provides? It provides a mechanism for representing a continuous time signal by a discrete time signal by taking a sufficient number of samples of a signal, so that your original message signal is represented in its samples completely. And that can be stated, that we have already stated last time, okay, which is given in terms of hertz. You have seen the Nyquist rate and you have seen the sampling frequency also. So we had three conditions over there. I hope you remember about the sampling rate. If sampling frequency is equals to or greater than 2 FM or the 2 Hertz or the B Hertz, then your signal can be reconstructed easily. If it is less than your sampling rate, is less than your sampling frequency, then it is very difficult to recover back your original message signal. Correct? I hope you remember that one. So the continuous signal may be completely represented in samples and can be recovered back if your sampling frequency is greater than that of your 2 FM. Okay, that is the sampling rate. So if it is greater than 2 FM, then you will be maximum frequency, then you will be getting your original message signal. So the continuous time signal may be completely represented in samples and it can be recovered back, or it can be reverted back completely if the condition is your sampling frequency should be greater than that of your 2 FM, means your maximum frequency. Then your original message signal can be easily obtained at your receiver side. This was the condition. One is greater than 2 FM, one was equals to 2 FM. If Fs is equals to 2 FM also, you will get your message signal, original message signal without any errors. But the condition was there if Fs is less than 2 FM. I hope you remember. Then at that time you will be getting an overlapping signal, I have said. Correct? So that overlapping is nothing but your aliasing effect. The overlapped region in case of undersampling, as I have said, Fs is less than 2 FM. If Fs is greater than 2 FM, it is oversampling. What happens? You will be getting the spaces between them. Okay, the time will be wasted. Second, a perfect sampling, what you will get? Fs is equals to 2 FM. Okay, here also you will get your original message signal. You can revert or recovered message signal will be obtained, but the thing is it consumes lots of time. But in perfect sampling, if Fs is equals to 2 FM, you will be getting your message signal exactly same without any distortions at your receiver side. But in undersampling, when your Fs is less than 2 FM, your signals will be overlapped. This part will be overlapped. So your message signal spectrum will be like this, right? So your signal will be like this, part will be lost, and this part or this effect is called as your aliasing effect. The overlapped region in case of undersampling represents your aliasing effect, and it can be termed as the phenomenon of the higher frequency component in the spectrum of a signal take on the identity of the lower frequency component in the spectrum of the sampled version. Okay, this higher frequency spectrum is taking over the identity of your lower frequency spectrum. Yes or no? So this is the higher frequency, low frequency. It is taking off your identity of that particular spectrum. Okay, of that particular component in that particular frequency spectrum. So that kind of effect is called as your aliasing effect. Okay, and this aliasing effect can be removed or can be reduced by using an anti-aliasing filters, which are nothing but your low pass filter. filters which eliminate your high frequency components. Okay, how you state your aliasing effect? The phenomenon of high frequency component in the spectrum of a signal that is taking the identity of your low frequency spectrum. So how you are going to remove? By using an anti-aliasing filter, that is nothing but your low pass filter which eliminates your higher frequency components. Okay, I hope you are clear now with your sampling theorem, sampling, aliasing effect and different kinds of sampling, ideal, natural and flat top. Okay, whereas ideal is just ideal, you are getting some giving some pulses, multiplying some pulses with your analog message signal, you will be getting the samples of your message signal. But in natural sampling, what you are having, you are giving a complete pulse train as the carrier input and you are multiplying with your message signal and you will be getting the output as a sampled spectrum. But the disadvantage is that in the what happens in your natural sampling, it takes the some of the noise will be there at the top of the samples, okay, or the top of the amplitude. Some of the noise will be occurred and that noise is also added with your message signal because it vary in natural sampling. The pulses, the carrier signal varies with the message signal amplitude. So what happens? It is continuously coming. So that's the reason. There is the some drawback. Due to that one, we are going for the flat top sampling, where in the top it is only considering the amplitude of the message signal. Your carrier signal amplitude is not mixed up with that one. I'll show that one also. Okay, this was about your sampling. Okay, now we are going to start our important topic, that is your pulse amplitude modulation. I hope you remember what is amplitude modulation. The amplitude of the carrier wave is varied in accordance with your amplitude of the message signal. Here also same, the amplitude of the pulse carrier. There you have continuous wave, here you are having pulse carriers, right? So amplitude of the pulse carrier is varying in proportional or in according to the instantaneous values of amplitude of the message signal. Okay, the same thing, only the extra thing that is added your pulse carrier. So the amplitude of the pulse carrier varies in accordance with the instantaneous amplitude of the message signal. And what the both terms will be having constant over here, that is the width and the positions of the pulses are constant. The width will not be changing of the pulses and the position of the pulse will also not be changing. So these both are constant. Okay, now these pulse amplitude modulation can be of two types. First one is your single polarity pulse amplitude modulation and the second one is your double polarity pulse amplitude modulation. So in single polarity, what happens? A suitable fixed DC bias, direct current bias is added to a signal to ensure that the pulses are positive. Or in simple words, I'll tell, you just note it down. The amplitude of the regularly spaced pulses are always positive. It means in your single polarity pulse amplitude modulation, we'll get only positive pulses. Okay, whereas in your double polarity, the pulses are both positive as well as the negative, above the line, above your axis and below the axis. Whereas in single polarity, we will be only getting the positive pulses that are nothing but your regularly spaced and which are always positive. Okay, that are your single polarity amplitude modulation and double polarity. Depending on the type of sampling, this pulse amplitude modulation is of two types. One is natural sampling pulse amplitude modulation and second one is flat top sampling or the flat top pulse amplitude modulation. In these two types, you will be getting your pulse amplitude modulated wave. Okay, either by using your natural. Why we have to go for the sampling? Because you have to convert your continuous waveform into discrete time waveform. Okay, after that you have to modulate. Which kind of modulation? Pulse amplitude modulation. So in natural pulse amplitude modulation and flat top pulse amplitude modulation you will be seeing. Correct? Now see, by seeing this figure you can easily get this one. Okay, this is single polarity. Single polarity amplitude modulation is nothing but you will be getting only positive pulses. As I have said, the amplitudes of the regularly spaced These are regularly spaced pulses which are always positive, and here the amplitudes of the pulses may be positive or it may be negative depending upon the samples, depending upon the sample values. I hope you are clear with this single polarity and double polarity PAM. Now you see the pulse modulation, pulse amplitude modulation. What you are saying, first I am giving the figure, then I will explain the operation of that one. Okay. So the modulating signal, this is your message signal and this is your pulse. Okay. Pulse carrier. You are having this kind of pulse carrier which is multiplied and you will get a natural sampled PAM. Okay, here see very carefully, ma, what is the difference between a natural and flat top sampling. See, in natural sampling what happens, this carrier signals amplitude is varying in accordance with this one, but what happens here in this condition, when you are transmitting this data, of course there will be some noise or distortion will be added in through a channel. When you are passing this signal, modulated signal through a channel, some noise will be added, and that noise also will be added up over here at this particular carrier amplitude. So what happens here, the message signal, the carrier signal and as well as the noise will also be added with this one and will be sent. So but here in this flat top sampling, what actually does, it only takes the particular points. Okay, so in flat top samplings it takes the samples of that constant amplitude only. It does not take here at this part. If you are having noise, it doesn't. If you are having noise, this can be eliminated. So only at this particular points it will be taking the consideration and you will getting your original message signal without any distortion. Means your distortion will be reduced by using your flat top sampling. So out of all these three samplings, one of the most advantageous sampling is your flat top sampling. Okay, this is how you will be getting. I hope you are clear with this flat top sampling. You will be having the sample will be constant amplitude. It won't vary during with the duration of the pulses. But here you will be having this will not be having the constant amplitude. The amplitude will be changing. So we want the constant amplitude of the carrier signal, not the okay. So that's the reason we will be preferring your flat top sampling. Okay. Now see the generation of your pulse amplitude modulation. Okay, so this is the block diagram for your natural PAM. Okay, we are having two techniques to generate your PAM. One is the natural PAM and the second one is your flat top PAM. Natural PAM, I hope you are clear. For getting the idea, first I have shown the figure over here. Okay, this is how you will be getting. So in natural PAM, what you are going to generate first, as we have already told, we are using a sample and hold circuit for flat top, not for the natural. We are using just a switch over here. Okay, so the PAM signal is generated by using a pulse train, okay, called the sampling signal or the clock signal to operate, and an electronic switch or the chopper which is used to produce that one. Okay, this produces the sample of analog message signals, this both. Okay, if the switch is closed for the duration of each pulse, for the duration of this each pulse, if the switch is closed, allowing the message signal at that sampling time. So if this switch is closed, so it will be this op-amp, the first operational amplifier, will be allowing your message signal to become a part of your output. So here what happens, when the switch is open, your message signal is being going. Okay, then when switch is closed, your carrier signal will be going, and at the output you will be getting the modulated output. So the switch is open for the remainder of each sampling period, making the output as 0, and this kind of modulation is called as your natural PAM. So this is the output you will be getting, where your amplitude of the carrier is also varied. Correct? So here what you are having, you will be seeing this one, this part you have got, right? Now next see, in your flat top sampling, for the flat top sampling, the sample and hold circuit will be used. So sample and hold circuit is used in conjunction, means with the chopper circuit to hold the amplitude of the each pulse at a constant level. So what we are doing here, we are not having the sample and hold circuit. We have to hold the amplitude of your pulse. The pulse amplitude should not vary with your message signal. So you will not be getting this output. So here in this one, we will be having the same thing over here. You are not holding the amplitude of your pulse, but here you will be having the whole circuit which will be holding the amplitude of your pulses also. So in your flat top sampling, the sample and hold circuit is used along with a chopper to hold the amplitude of each pulse at a constant level during the sampling time. So during complete sampling time, at a particular constant level, your amplitude of the pulses will be remaining constant. So flat top sampling produces the pulse whose amplitude remains constant during the sampling time. I hope you are clear with this. So for your pulse amplitude modulation also, we prefer flat top sampling, right? So the amplitude value of the pulse depends upon the amplitude of the input signal. Of course, you have to see that the amplitude of your modulated wave and your message wave should be same. Yes or no? So the amplitude value of the pulse depends upon the amplitude value of the input signal at the time of the sampling. Okay, during sampling the amplitude should be constant. But you can see an aperture effect can be seen in this type of pulse amplitude modulations. So what is meant by aperture effect? It is nothing but a small amount of amplitude distortion that is in your reconstructed signal. So note it down, ma. What is aperture effect? When I am telling, please do note it down. Aperture effect can be defined as the distortion occurred in the reconstructed signal. What is the reconstructed signal? Nothing but your original message signal. Correct? So here the aperture effect is defined as the distortion in the reconstructed signal obtained from the flat top sampled version of the signal, where the amplitude of the higher frequency components are reduced relative to the amplitudes of the lower frequency components. Okay, I'll repeat once again. In simple words, first I'll say amplitude aperture effect is nothing but a small amount of amplitude distortion which will be occurring in the reconstructed signal. Reconstructed signal is nothing but you are changing the continuous wave into discrete wave. That is reconstructed. Okay, so you are reconstructing in that signal. At that signal, if you are having some small, very small amount of amplitude distortion, then that kind of effect is called as your aperture effect. And that aperture effect can be reduced by using an equalizer at the receiver end. So at the receiver end, if you apply an equalizer circuit over there, then that kind of, which kind of distortion? Amplitude distortion will be reduced. So these are the two kinds of generations for your flat top pulse amplitude modulation. So what you are using? A message signal. Okay, this is the one analog input signal. You are giving the message signal by using a switch over here which is used to generate your pulses, but here the amplitude is not constant. So we are going for the flat top sampling. In the last class also we have discussed about the flat top sampling, where you will be seeing the circuit of that one. You will be having a sample and hold circuit. It will sample and hold the value of the amplitude. So amplitude will be remained constant throughout the sampling time, and you will be getting your message signal. This is the message reconstructed modulated wave. Right? Correct or not? So this is the reconstructed signal. But here you will be getting a small defect, that is your aperture effect, nothing but a small amount of amplitude distortion. Okay, that will be obtained at a reconstructed signal. Reconstructed is nothing but the converted, continuous to discrete converted signal. Okay, so this is the one. And to reduce this aperture effect, we will be using equalizers at the receiver ends. Clear? Now see the demodulation part of your pulse amplitude modulation. So what you are having at the demodulation side, simple pulse amplitude modulated wave is given to that is given to a holding circuit, and that is given to a low pass filter. And now what it does, see this pulse amplitude sampled signal at the Nyquist rate can be reconstructed. You have to keep in mind that it should be at the Nyquist rate. Okay, can be reconstructed at the receiver end by passing it through a low pass filter. Okay, we are passing this through a low pass filter. Okay, now this low pass filter should be exact to the cutoff frequency, that is your sample frequency divided by 2, and this kind of operation or the filtering is known as reconstruction or interpolation filter. Okay, this low pass filter eliminates the higher frequency components. Yes, to reduce the aliasing effect also. So this low pass filter eliminates the higher frequency components or the higher frequency ripples and generates the demodulated signal. And this signal is then applied to the inverting amplifier. We are lastly, after this one you got a demodulated signal. After that we are applying it to a inverting amplifier to amplify its signal level to have the demodulated output with almost equal or almost the same amplitude with the modulating signal. Okay, to amplify your signal, to boost up your signal, we are using the amplifier in the demodulator side after the block of your low pass filter. Okay, so this is the circuit of your low pass filter, and this low pass filter out these higher frequency components. You will be getting your original message signal. Now this you will be having a holding circuit which is followed by the demodulator. Okay, why we are using a holding circuit, correct? So what you are having in this it's completely reverse process, yes or no? So this in this way what happens, why we are using in the capacitor, we are having a capacitor, a switch, and we are applying the input as a pulse amplitude wave, correct? So in this method, the holding circuit and the low pass circuit which are present over here, the capacitor is charged to a pulse amplitude value and it holds, this capacitor holds the value during the interval between the two pulses. Hence the sampled values are which are I have given him this one. These are the sampled values which I have shown, and this holding circuit is the one which is used to smoothen the signal. So in low pass filter, by using a low pass filter, you will be smoothening the signals. So this switch, when it is open, so what happens over here, whenever the switch is open, your capacitor gets charged, okay, and you will be getting a holding circuit. This is complete the holding circuit. It will hold the particular amplitude or the signals for a particular time, and then you will be getting your message signal, and this is smoothened or remove higher frequency components, and they are given to the amplifier to get the message signal which is approximately almost equal to the amplitude of your message signal. So this is about your pulse amplitude modulation demodulator side. Okay, demodulation of your pulse amplitude modulation. I hope you are clear with this one. Okay, when the switch is closed after the arrival of the pulse and it is open at the end of the pulse. Okay, when the switch is closed and when the switch is opened, switch is closed after the arrival. Whenever you will get one pulse, the switch will be closed. After getting complete operation of one pulse is done, then the switch will be open. This is how your switch will be on and off, and the capacitor is charged to the pulse amplitude value. Your up to which level it will be charging your capacitor? Up to the amplitude value of your modulated signal. After that it will get your signal, it is given at the output side, and again it will discharge. Again the switch will be opened for the next pulse, it will be charged, then the signal will be given, then it will be closed and it will be discharged. So this is how you will be getting the pulses. Then these are smoothened, you will be getting a message signal by using a low pass filter where higher frequency components will be reduced, and lastly they will be given to the amplifier where you will be getting the same amplitude or the similar amplitude message signal. Okay, now see the advantages of your PAM. Okay, it is very simple, alright, very easy to implement, yes or no? Just we need a sample and hold circuit, you need a message signal, you need a switch, then you will be go for getting ready to go to get your pulse amplitude modulated signal. Okay, there is a greater peak power compared to your amplitude modulation and frequency modulation, and here the signal to noise ratio is also improved in your PAM, and the pulses are of uniform duration, correct or not? You are having the uniform duration in this, so this is the advantage. Okay, this you are having the pulses in PAM are of uniform duration and are equally spaced, therefore the receiver synchronization is not at all a problem, yes or no? In pulse amplitude modulation, what you are going to see, we have to see whether you are having the same synchronization, means in terms of amplitude and frequency it is same synchronized or not to your transmitter side signal. Yes, here it is not a problem because you are converting your continuous wave signal into discrete wave, means they are equally distributed, equally spaced, and uniform duration is also there. So there is a synchronization at the receiver side, so there is not a problem for your synchronization. But the drawbacks over here are the bandwidth required for the transmission of your pulse amplitude signal is very large. Okay, the bandwidth requirement is very large in comparison to the maximum frequency which is present in your modulating signal. Means the message signal which requires some 2 Hz of frequency, but whereas the bandwidth required for your pulse amplitude wave will be 4. So it requires larger bandwidths. That is one drawback. Second one is this amplitude of the PAM pulses varies in accordance with your modulating signal. There will be some interference of noise, and that will be maximum in your PAM. So the interference of noise will be maximum, the bandwidth required is also large, and variation of peak power required is also used at the transmitter. So the variation of peak power required by the transmitter is also large. So these are the drawbacks of your pulse amplitude modulation. These can be overcome by your next topic, that is nothing but your pulse time modulation schemes. In that one you will be having 2, pulse width modulation and pulse position modulation. Clear ma? I hope you are clear with the pulse amplitude modulation. Okay, so you are varying the amplitude of your pulses in according with your message signal, but you are having a drawback that bandwidth requirement is high, amplitude you will be getting interference of noise, and the peak power is also high. So variations with it, complete variations will be there. So that's the reason we are going for the pulse width and pulse position modulation. So I hope you are clear with today's class. We'll end the class here itself. If you are having any doubts, please do let me know. Okay, thank you.